Okay, so there will always be something. That is true. Every chapter there will be a question, but the number of questions will be more. The number of questions will be more. That is important. Example like molecular basis, genetics, all of them, the number of questions will be more. And even in first year, for example, if you take human physiology and plant physiology, the number of questions are slightly higher when compared to the other chapters. So remember this. This is very, very important. So what is ecosystem? Ecosystem is a functional unit of nature where living organisms interact with each other and also with the physical environment. So what happens here? They interact with each other and also with the physical environment. This is very, very important. What is the physical environment? That is the abiotic components of the environment. Okay, then one second. So what is the structure of the ecosystem? We'll look at it. The structure of the ecosystem will have several components, but to understand those several components, we should look at the types of ecosystem. See, we are studying only a few types. One is terrestrial ecosystem, aquatic ecosystem, and man-made ecosystem. Okay, a few types in each. Okay. Now, structure and function. So each biosphere is regarded as a global ecosystem. A global ecosystem is the whole world. So in an ecosystem, we have biotic and abiotic components. We have biotic and abiotic components which interact and function as a unit, which is very important. Then the vertical distribution of species occupying different levels is called stratification. So I've included questions on stratification. So remember that it is the vertical different distribution of different species occupying different levels. Understand this, which is called as stratification. Then in a forest, trees occupy top strata. Students, please mute your microphones. 1 second. So, this is called a stratification. Example, in a forest, the trees occupy the top strata. Can you see here? They occupy the top strata. So here, then after that comes over the shrubs, then herbs and grasses here. So these herbs and grasses here will receive minimum amount of sunlight, whereas the trees will require maximum amount of sunlight. And these herbs and smaller plants here are called as xeophytes. These can grow in shades. These can grow in shade. Then we'll look at the pond ecosystem or the aquatic ecosystem. A pond ecosystem is shallow, simple, self-sustainable. What do you mean by self-sustainable? It is able to sustain by itself. It is not depending on any other ecosystem. Remember that. Then water body that exhibits all the basic components of the ecosystem. There are abiotic components, climatic conditions, autotrophic components, consumers, and and decomposers. What are abiotic components? Abiotic components are water, soil, and even light. All of them come under the abiotic components. Then climatic conditions, solar input. This is very, very important for the producers to produce food. Then cycle of temperature, daylight length. So based on the daylight length, you would see diurnal and circadian rhythms that we have seen in the previous chapter. Then the autotrophic components. Remember that, very important. Phytoplankton, algae, floating, submerged, and marginal plants. Can you see here? These plants here, here, and here. Here, here, and here. Marginal plants. And here. Okay. These are very important. Then consumers. So zooplanktons. Remember that all planktons are not producers. Phytoplanktons are producers, zooplanktons are consumers. Free swimming and bottom dwelling forms. So both free swimming and bottom dwelling ponds. Then the decomposers are found in the bottom of the pond. So here, they are found here, decomposers. Here you can see decomposers in the soil, which are fungi, bacteria, and flagellates. Then the pond performs all the functions of an ecosystem. That is conversion of inorganic into organic material using solar radiant energy by the autotrophs. So autotrophs or those organisms which produce their own food. So autotrophs are also called as transducers. So remember this word, transducers. They are also called as transducers. Why? They convert inorganic to organic material, and also remember they use sunlight and do photosynthesis. This is very important. Then consumption of autotrophs by heterotrophs. Heterotrophs. So here heterotrophs are the immediate ones that consume the autotrophs. So those are usually herbivores. Okay. Then the decomposition and mineralization of dead matter to release them back and reuse by the autotrophs. So whatever these animals are there, they'll die, reach the soil. Then those components are again used by the plants, and again they go to the heterotrophs, and again they are recycled back, and again they are recycled back. So remember this. Then there are four major components of an ecosystem: productivity, decomposition, energy flow, and nutrient cycling. We'll study each part. Okay. First, productivity. So when we look at production, so remember this carefully, that sun is the ultimate source of energy for all individuals on this earth. Sun is the ultimate source of energy. That is the primary source of energy. Sunlight falls on the plants. The plants use sunlight along with carbon dioxide and water to form biomass. To form biomass. Understand this, which is primary productivity by autotrophs. By autotrophs, that is called as primary production. Remember this. By autotrophs is primary production, and the rate of biomass production is called as productivity. Is called as productivity. That is primary productivity. Remember this. So here it is divided into gross primary productivity and net primary productivity. So for example, I'll just give you a very simple example. Imagine I earn 100 rupees a month and 10 rupees goes off in taxes. Then how much do I get? I get 90. So here there is something that is lost. This is my gross pay. This is my net pay. Understand this. This is my net pay. Okay. This is my net pay. So what is that I'm actually getting is 90 and not 100. So in the same way, a plant will produce some amount of biomass, but some of it is lost in respiratory losses. So what is ultimately got is only 90. So that is net primary productivity. So look at this. Net primary productivity is equal to gross primary productivity minus respiratory loss. This you have to know. So this is same for autotrophs, heterotrophs, every other organisms. Okay. Now we come to secondary productivity. So what the plant is doing is primary productivity. Understand this. So by the plant it is primary productivity. These plants are consumed by herbivores. That is, they are primary consumers. Primary consumers. And what productivity they do is secondary productivity. So remember this, it is secondary productivity by herbivores. What are they? They are primary consumers. Remember this. This is a producer. So what is produced by a producer is primary productivity. What is produced by a primary consumer is secondary productivity. After this, the primary productivity, this can be eaten by a tiger. So let us imagine this rabbit is eaten by a tiger. What is a tiger? It is a secondary consumer. So that would be tertiary productivity. So are you understanding? So primary productivity varies in different ecosystem because it depends on plant species, all that you'll know. But that is primary productivity by the producers, secondary productivity by primary consumers, tertiary productivity by secondary consumers. This you have to remember. This is very important. This is very important. Okay. This is very important. Very, very important. So next, the annual net primary productivity in the whole world is 170 billion tons of dry matter of organic matter. So all of you know, other than water, if you take off, what remains is dry matter. Of this, despite occupying 70% of the surface, productivity of the oceans is only 55 billion tons. Remember this. Out of the whole world is 170. So total is 170. Okay. So which is in that 55 is from oceans. So what would be the remaining? 115 is from land. Okay, are you understanding? 115 is from land. So 115 billion tons. Billion tons is from land. 55 billion tons is from ocean. So remember this. This is very important. This is important. This is important. Okay. Now we'll go to the next slide. Decomposition. Now we have seen about productivity. Now we'll look at decomposition. So what happens in decomposition? It is the breakdown of complex organic matter by decomposers into inorganic substances like carbon dioxide, water, and nutrients. Into inorganic substances like carbon dioxide, water, and nutrients. Understand this. It is a aerobic process. It is an oxygen requiring process. Remember that it is a oxygen requiring process. The raw material for decomposition is called detritus. So all the dead material in the world, that is plant and animal remains. Remember this, both plant remains and animal remains, they are considered as detritus, including fecal matter. So all the excreta by animals is also considered as detritus. So remember that, including fecal matter, it is called as detritus. So we'll look at the steps. The first step is fragmentation. So look at this, there's an animal dead here, fragmentation. So what happens? Breakdown of detritus into smaller particles by detrivores. It is called as fragmentation. Can you name some other animal which does fragmentation other than earthworm? Think and tell me, students. So which should use up organic matter for eating up? You're very close to it, not actually fungus. Anything else? Very good. Snails. So dead animals na tinno antad helbeku. See, don't go into microorganisms. We don't get microorganisms here at all. See, earthworm we have told. Other than earthworm, it's a multicellular organism. So small animals which will eat dead organisms. Think and tell me. Ants, very good. Ants. Yes, scavengers. Somebody used the correct word. Scavengers. What is this BT worm? See, organisms which feed on dead matter. So always what comes to our mind is bacteria and fungus. So bacteria and fungus are there, but they help in decomposition, but they don't help in fragmentation. Are you understanding? There are 5 steps. In that, they help in a process called catabolism. Okay, what your answers are right for catabolism. I'm asking animals for fragmentation. See, earthworm 1 you gave. Very good. Somebody gave me a correct answer. Very good. Maggots, cockroaches, ants. Very good. Vultures. Superb. So see, students, vulture, eagles. Okay, they're all scavengers. So what do they do? Wood lice. Do you know termites? Termites. Gedlu anತಾರೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ. So those are also important in fragmentation. So the animal comes onto the land and it's dead. See, if it's humans, we bury them or something. But if animals are dead in the forest, what happens? Not all animals will come and eat them. Okay, and they just don't directly undergo decomposition. They would be eaten up by smaller animals like crow, vultures, okay, cockroaches, ants, maggots. Okay, and if it's a tree, they have cellulose in it. Termites would eat them up. So they help in fragmentation. Very good. So they help in fragmentation. Then the second part is leaching. So when it rains, okay, and along with the water soluble inorganic nutrients will go down into the soil horizon and precipitate as unavailable salts. Remember this, and they'll precipitate as unavailable salts. Then the next one is catabolism. What happens in catabolism? Degradation of detritus into simpler inorganic substances by bacteria and fungal enzymes. So remember this, only this part is done by microorganisms. So all of you are giving Okay, I'll tell you what soil horizon is. Okay, all of you were giving bacteria and fungal enzymes. See, I can understand why you are telling me that it has bacteria and fungal enzymes. Why? Because that is what has been taught to us from before. Yes, they help in decomposition, but only in this step. So remember that catabolism is by bacterial and fungal enzymes. Okay, now what is soil horizon? So let me give you an answer. So if this is the place where we are standing, okay, so 1 second. Okay, I'll tell you. So let us imagine this is the place where we are standing. Okay, so this is the place where we are standing. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know how this is get muted up. Okay. Okay, done. Sorry. So I'll tell again, humification. So what happens in humification? It is the accumulation of humus. It is the accumulation of humus. Okay. So what is humus? Humus is a dark, dark amorphous substance. So can you see here? Can you see this part? Humus here. Can you see? And finally, what happens? It would get mineralized. I mean, I'll tell you this, humus can't be directly used up by the plant. Remember that it is colloid in nature and serves as a reservoir of nutrients. It can't be directly used up. Only after mineralization starts. So understand this, only after mineralization starts, the humus can be used. It is a release of inorganic nutrients due to degradation of humus by some microbes. So once mineralization takes place, the plants will be able to absorb nutrients. Absorb nutrients. So that is why any organism that is dead, any organism that is dead, okay, has to undergo all these steps and finally release minerals, and then they'll be used up by the plants there. So now I'll ask you a question. Which of these would provide minerals readily available for plants? Is it manure or else is it fertilizer? So which one would readily give nutrients to plants, manure or fertilizer? Think and answer. ನೋಡಿ ತುಂಬಾ ಜನ ಮೆನ್ಯೂರ್ ಅಂತ ಹಾಕ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. Many of you are telling manure. See, I'll tell you something. See, if I add cow dung to soil, that is manure. Okay, that is manure. Listen carefully. Listen carefully. Iga natural manure. They use the word natural manure. Okay, vermicompost, all that. So what is happening there? What is happening there? We are adding only the organic material to soil. So that manure has to undergo this decomposition process. If it doesn't undergo decomposition process, it's a waste. So understand that even if you add cow dung to soil and you expect the plant to take up minerals tomorrow itself, it won't happen. That cow dung has to be acted upon by microorganisms. It should undergo mineralization. After mineralization only, it will release the minerals into soil. Whereas in fertilizer, understand this, in fertilizers that is available in the market, urea and all that, as soon as you apply to soil, it is readily available to the plant. Okay, so in fertilizer, it is readily available to the plant. It can be easily absorbed. It can be easily absorbed. So understand this, it can be easily absorbed, and it is not manure. Understand this, it is not at all manure. Okay, so remember it, it is not manure. So we'll go to the next one. See, can you see here decomposition? Okay, so what are the factors that will affect decomposition? So chemical composition of the detritus, one of the major ones. So if it is rich in lignin and chitin, it is quicker. If the detritus is rich in nitrogen and water, okay, if it is rich in nitrogen and water and simple sugar, it would be faster. So remember this, very important. Climatic factors, temperature and soil moisture. Warm and moist environment favor decomposition. Understand this, warm and moist environment will favor decomposition. So if the temperature is extremely low and if there is anaerobic condition, it will inhibit decomposition, resulting in the buildup of organic material. So that is why in regions where there is extremely low temperature, decomposition is also extremely low. Now we have studied productivity, we have studied decomposition. Now we'll look at the next part, that is energy flow. Here, sun is the only source of energy for all ecosystem except deep sea hydrothermal ecosystem. So what happens in deep sea hydrothermal ecosystem? There is extreme temperatures and some organisms survive like archaebacteria. So their sunlight is not available at all. So one of the incident solar radiation, less than 50% is photosynthetically active radiation. That means that can be used for photosynthesis. Out of that, only 2 to 10% of the photosynthetically active radiation is used, and it will sustain the entire living world. Okay, so ecosystems obey the second law of thermodynamics. They need a constant supply of energy to synthesize molecules, which help to counteract the entropy. So energy flow, producers use up light to produce organic matter, that is they show productivity. So both phytoplanktons, aquatic plants, algae and other higher plants will produce biomass, and that is one form of energy is transformed into another, and it will pass on to consumers. In consumers, remember I told you there are primary consumers, secondary consumers and tertiary consumers. So primary consumers, they show secondary productivity, secondary productivity, tertiary productivity, like this. Okay, so the next one, we have two types of food chain here. One is a grazing food chain, the other one is a detritus food chain. In a grazing food chain, we see that grass or plants are the producers, which will be eaten up by primary consumer and then to a secondary consumer. This is a grazing food chain. Okay. The next one is the detritus food chain. So what is the material here? It is detrivores that will eat up the detritus. So detritus is made up of decomposers, that is saprotropes such as fungi and bacteria. They secrete digestive enzymes that break down detritus into simple inorganic material which are absorbed by them. Next we go to energy flow. Look at this. A specific place of organisms in the food chain is known as the trophic level. So what is the trophic level of plants? Primary producers. The second trophic level which eats them, herbivores, they are primary consumers. The herbivores will be eaten by secondary consumers. Secondary consumers will be eaten up by tertiary consumers. So first trophic level, second trophic level, third trophic level and the fourth trophic level. First, second, third and the fourth trophic level. So some organisms will switch between the second and the third trophic level. So remember that. Example, sparrow. Sparrow will eat vegetarian food, also non-vegetarian. My teacher used to tell me this. So they eat seeds which are from plants, At the same time, they eat worms, which are primary consumers. So it can be in both the trophic level, second trophic level and the third trophic level. Okay. So remember this, the organisms at each trophic level depend on those at the lower trophic levels. Remember that they depend on the one at the lower trophic level. So in each trophic level, it has a certain mass of living material, which is called a standing crop and is measured in biomass. So remember this. And only 10% will move from each trophic level to the next trophic level. So the next one is ecological pyramids. In ecological pyramids, it is a representation of food chain in the form of a pyramid, which is called an ecological pyramid, which is called as a ecological pyramid. So remember this. The base of the pyramid will represent producers, that is the first trophic level, okay. Then the apex will represent the tertiary of the top consumers, Then ecological pyramids are of three types: pyramid of number, pyramid of biomass, pyramid of energy. Then pyramid of number example is grassland ecosystem. So look at this carefully, look at this. Primary producer, they are maximum in number, okay, they are maximum in number. Then comes the primary consumer, which is slightly lesser in number when compared to the primary producer. Next, after this, we have the secondary consumer. The secondary consumers are even more less in number. Even lesser in number. Which are lesser in number. The tertiary consumer will become even more lesser. So look at it. The number is kept on decreasing. This is a pyramid of number. Okay. Then pyramid of biomass. Pyramid of biomass is where we take the biomass of the individuals at the each trophic level. So here, look at it: primary producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer, and tertiary consumer. But it is inverted in the case of aquatic ecosystem. Understand this? It is inverted in the case of aquatic ecosystem. So remember this, it is inverted in the case of aquatic ecosystem. I wanted to tell you this. Pyramid of number will also. Hey, why is this? What is happening? Pyramid of number can also be inverted like this. Can you tell me in which one the pyramid of number is inverted? Here you will have producers, then you have consumers, primary consumer, secondary consumer, like this. Which ecosystem? No. Very good. It is in tree ecosystem. Very good. In tree ecosystem, the producer is only one. It is only one in number, whereas the consumers are more in number. Very good. That's an exception. So in pyramid of number, all of them are erect except for tree ecosystem. Very good. Very good. Except for tree ecosystem. Whereas in pyramid of biomass, so remember this, in pyramid of biomass, aquatic ecosystem has inverted. So these are exceptions. Pyramid of energy is always upright. Remember this, pyramid of energy is always upright. Why? Maximum energy is there with the producers. Then only 10% goes to the next trophic level. Then after that only 10% goes. In that only 10% goes. Are you understanding? So pyramid of energy, nowhere it is inverted. Understand this. Nowhere it is inverted. It is always upright. See, yes, there is unidirectional flow, but here we are looking at the quantity, which is very important. Okay. Now, ecological pyramids. Okay. So what are the disadvantages with this? There are some disadvantages. Okay. We'll go to it. It does not take into account the same species belonging to two or more trophic levels. It will not take into account same species belonging to two or more trophic levels. Remember, I told you example in the case of sparrow. Okay. It assumes a simple food chain, but which is almost non-existent in nature because we have a food web. Okay, so interconnecting food chains are called food webs. Okay, now we'll go to the next one. Saprophytes are not included in ecological pyramid. Saprophytes are not included in ecological pyramids, even though they play a vital role in the ecosystem. So understand this, they're very important. So ಇದನ್ನ usually ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. Okay, so remember this. Okay, so what is 10% law? So 10% law states that only 10% of energy is passed on from one trophic level to the next trophic level, to the higher trophic level. Okay, then we go to ecological succession. This is also very important. It is the gradual, slow and predictable changes in the species composition of an area leading to climax community. Okay, the climax community is that is in equilibrium with the environment. Understand that it is in equilibrium with the environment. In some species colonize an area and increase in number, whereas other species decline and disappear. Remember this. The entire sequences of communities that successively change in an area are called as seer, and the individual transitional communities are called as serial communities. Understand this, they are called as serial communities. This is very, very important. So remember this. Okay, now we'll go to two types of succession. One is primary succession, the other one is secondary succession. So primary succession is one which starts in a barren area where no living organism ever existed. Understand this, no living organism ever existed. That is the start, primary succession. Example, newly cooled lava, bare rock, newly created pond or reservoir. Okay, so understand this. If succession has to take place, okay, if succession has to be take place, there should be formation of fertile soil through a natural process. So the primary succession is a very slow process. Done. Then we go to secondary succession. In secondary succession, the succession takes place in an area after the existed organisms, understand this, after the existed organisms were gone from that area. Okay, example, abandoned farmland. So before that somebody was growing there, now they've left it. Burnt or cut forest, before there was a forest, now everything is gone. Lands that are flooded. So remember this. Since some soil or sediment is present, succession is faster than primary succession. Why? Soil is already there, everything is ready. The only thing is the previous ones are gone, so the new ones can easily come in. The species that invade depend on the condition of soil and availability of water. So remember that. Go to the next one. Okay, succession in plants. So one second students. So based on the nature and habitat, plant succession is of two types, hydrarch and xerarch. Understand this, hydrarch and xerarch. What is hydrarch succession? Hydrarch succession is a case where it takes place in water bodies, that is wetter areas. The series progresses from hydric to mesic condition. So remember this, it progresses from hydric to mesic conditions, from full water to mesic condition, so to medium condition. So what is xerarch succession? It takes place in dry areas. So a series progresses from xeric to mesic condition, right? That is extremely dry condition. So hence both hydrarch and xerarch succession lead to medium water conditions. Understand this, it leads to medium water conditions, that is the climax community. The species invading the bare area is called pioneer species. The species invading bare area is called pioneer species. Remember, mesic, I just told you now, medium water condition. Xeric is complete absence of water. So that is on a rock. Hydrarch will take place in a pond. Hydrarch will take place in a pond. So remember this. This is important. Okay. So now we'll go to the next part. Succession in xeric condition. In xeric condition, it usually takes place on a rock. Understand this, it usually takes place on a rock. Okay, so here lichens are the pioneer species. What do you mean by pioneer species? The first species that comes up on ecological succession is called as pioneer species. Remember that it is called as pioneer species. Okay. Now, these pioneer species will weather the rock. That means they'll release certain chemicals which will help in weathering, that is breaking down of the upper layer of the rock. Then the lichens are followed by small plants like bryophytes. They only require very small amount of soil, and if there is any depression, they'll have water and they'll be able to fertilize and grow. Then herbs come into picture. Then after herbs there are small shrubs, and finally trees will come into picture. The climax community will remain stable as long as the environment remains unchanged, So remember this. Students will usually ask, sir, in that condition, everywhere in this world, we should have had forests. Still, we have rocks. See, even the environmental conditions is very important. What if the temperature is extremely high? Even lichens won't grow, even bryophytes won't grow. So the climatic conditions along with the biotic components will bring about succession. In that case, every other rock would have gone today and there would be only forests, correct? So the environmental conditions are also very important. So understand this, it is very important. Okay, so why is it not audible? Okay, I'll try to be louder. Now the next one is xeric succession. The succession takes place in water. So phytoplanktons are the pioneers here. Can you see here this stage? Phytoplanktons are the pioneers here. So they will be floating here. Then free floating angiosperms, then rooted hydrophytes, then sedges and grasses, and finally trees. So with this, the water body gets converted into land. Then we come to nutrient cycling. So what is nutrient cycling? Here, the movement of nutrients through various components of the environment is called nutrient cycling. It is also called biogeochemical cycling. Okay, we have two types of cycle. One is gaseous cycle and the other one is sedimentary cycle. In gaseous cycle, the reservoir is atmosphere. Understand this. In gaseous cycle, the reservoir is atmosphere, whereas in sedimentary cycle, the reservoir is Earth's crust. So remember this. One of the gaseous cycle is carbon cycle. Okay, so the reservoir of carbon, atmosphere is the reservoir of carbon, about 1%. Organisms 49% of dry weights, ocean 71% of dissolved carbon. It regulates the amount of atmospheric carbon dioxide. So fossil fuels are there and all the dead organisms are there. All of them will contain carbon. But remember that 4 into 10 to the power of 13 kg of carbon is fixed in the biosphere through photosynthesis annually. The major amount of carbon returns to the atmosphere as carbon dioxide through respiration. This you have to remember, as carbon dioxide through respiration. And processing of wastes and dead organic matter, okay, decomposers, and also release CO2. So remember this. Then the carbon cycle. See, burning of wood, organic matter, fossil fuel, volcanic activities are the other sources of releasing CO2 in the atmosphere. Then what is the role of human activities in carbon cycle? Deforestation, burning of fossil fuels has increased the rate of release of carbon dioxide into atmosphere. So remember this. This is important. Then phosphorus cycle. Phosphorus is a constituent of biological membranes, that is nucleic acids, cellular energy and transfer system. So biological membranes, why? Because we have phospholipids in the membrane, then nucleic acids and cellular membranes. Many animals use phosphorus to make shells, bones and teeth. Okay, to make phosphorus, they use phosphorus to make shells, bones and teeth. Okay, then the natural reservoir of phosphorus is rock. That is why phosphorus is a sedimentary cycle. So remember that phosphorus is a sedimentary cycle. Remember this. So when the rocks are weathered, can you see here? When the rocks are weathered, so by the process of uh, biological succession, biological succession, or by breaking rocks because of wind, rain, heat, and all that, they might be weathered and they'll be added to the soil solution. Remember this. In the soil solution, they'll be uptaken by producers. So along with water, then that would be used up by consumers. These consumers will again die and they form detritus and again they come back to soil. And the producers will also die. So remember this, the producers will also die and they'll also come back to detritus and they'll also come back to detritus. So remember this. So this is how phosphorus is cycled. Then what is the difference between carbon and phosphorus cycle? Carbon cycle, atmospheric input is higher, phosphorus cycle very less. There is gaseous exchange between organism and environment. Here gaseous exchange is negligible because it's a sedimentary cycle. Okay, now we'll go to the next part. Litter fall. Litter fall means the fall of leaves and all the dried parts of the plant. It's called as litter fall. Okay. Now litter has different meaning colloquially also. So for example, if animals, they give birth, they say it is a first litter. So please don't take that into consideration here. Litter in biology means all the dry leaves and twigs and all that that fall to the soil. Okay. Now we'll go to ecosystem services. Ecosystem services. Okay. The product of ecosystem processes are called ecosystem services. Ecosystem services of a healthy forest. Please have a look here of healthy forest. So what do we have? They purify air and water. That is true. They release carbon dioxide. They use up carbon dioxide and they release oxygen. Mitigate droughts and flood. Mitigate means reduce. They cycle nutrients, generate fertile soils. That is true by weathering process. Provide wildlife habitat. Maintain biodiversity. They pollinate crops. They provide storage site for carbon and they provide aesthetic, cultural, and spiritual values. So remember this, it is very important. Then, so Robert Constanza, please remember him, and his colleagues have tried to put a price tag to the nature's life support services. So it is US dollars of 33 trillion a year, 33 trillion a year. So nearly twice the value of global gross national product. So the whole global one is only 18. Okay, it's only 18. So this is very important. Out of this total costs, soil formation will only account for 50%. Okay, understand this. Soil formation will only account for 50%. So remember this, very important. The contribution of other services, okay, like recreation and nutrient cycling is only 10%. Environment regulation or climate regulation is only 6%. These are very important. So weathering 50, so recreation, nutrient cycling 60, wildlife 6%. Okay. So this brings you to the end of synopsis. We'll solve questions now. So every questions I'll give you some time. So all of you should answer. Okay. 1 second, students. So what is the correct answer? Okay. Fragmentation. So first step is fragmentation. Next one is leaching. And after that, it is catabolism. And then it is mineralization. Very good. D is the correct answer. D is the correct answer. Then flow of energy in our ecosystem takes place. So please answer. I'm sorry. Please answer, students. So very good. The flow of energy in our ecosystem is always in one direction, only in one direction. Very good. It is only in one direction. Then which of the following is correct? Please answer. Which of the following is correct? Please answer, students. What is that F? So GPP minus R will give you NPP, that is gross primary productivity minus respiratory losses will give you net primary productivity. Please answer. Answer. Producers, yes, very good. After phytoplanktons, the next one is zooplanktons. Okay, very good. So shrubs and herbaceous plants are there, but phytoplanktons are the major ones. Very good. Then which of the following ecological pyramid is always erect and upright? Okay. So which of the following ecological pyramid is always erect and upright? See, they use the word always. It is pyramid of energy. At any type of ecosystem you see, it is always upright. Whereas pyramid of number, see, listen. Pyramid of number is inverted like this in the case of tree ecosystem. In the case of tree ecosystem. So there is an exception in this. So pyramid of number can't be right. None of these can be right. Pyramid of biomass. So it is inverted in the case of aquatic ecosystem. In the aquatic ecosystem. So fourth one, it is phytoplankton. Somebody has asked. So done. So I think you would have understood this. There are exceptions in B and D. So A is the correct answer. Then amount of biomass produced per unit area by green plants is called. So remember this, it is by green plants. So what is it? Yes, very good. It is primary productivity. Good. It is primary productivity. Okay. So organisms living as both producer as a consumer are. Think and answer. Please answer. No, no. D is not right. D is not right. Why? Because fungi is only a saprophyte. Okay, saprophyte, or else it's a parasite, or else it is a parasite. So please answer. The correct answer is not C, not C, it is A. I'll tell you why. See, algae is absolutely a producer. Is absolutely a producer. Understand this, algae is a producer. Okay. Now, fungi is either a saprophyte or a parasite. Is either a saprophyte or a parasite. I'll explain. I'll explain. Do not keep flooding with questions. Okay. So, algae is a absolutely a autotroph. It is a producer. Fungi is an absolute heterotroph. That is, it is either a saprophyte or a parasite. Phytoplankton is wrong. Why? Because phytoplanktons are also absolutely autotrophs. Cuscuta. Cuscuta. I'll tell you something. Cuscuta is a parasitic plant. Cuscuta is a parasitic plant. So it is absolutely a plant which will depend on other plants for food. It is not a producer at all. Whereas Nepenthes and Drosera, they are insectivorous plants. Insectivorous plants. So remember this, they are insectivorous plants. So what does it mean? They are able to produce food by photosynthesis. So they're absolutely producers. Then are they consumers? Yes. Why? Because they are consuming insects. Insects, Nepenthes and Drosera. You have heard these words in first year in morphology of flowering plants. In morphology of flowering plants, you would have studied modification of leaf. There you would have heard Nepenthes, Drosera, pitcher plant, and all those. Okay. So any question, okay, is not absolutely from a particular chapter. They would have asked concept from other chapters also. Yeah, even Venus flytrap. So all of them are both producers as well as consumers. Why are they consumers? That is important. Why are they consumers? Because their soil does not have nitrogen in sufficient quantity. So they want nitrogen. So they want nitrogen. That is why they are consumers. So remember this, they want nitrogen. That is why they are consumers. So we go to the next question. Successive transitional communities will show. Successive transitional communities will show. Think and answer. So 100% energy transfer is wrong. Think and answer carefully. Let me see what all will you answer. Please answer. Answer, students. See, decrease in biomass is also wrong. See, it leads to increase in instability. It leads to increase in instability. B is the correct answer. B is the correct answer. Okay, we'll go to the next question. So speed of decomposition will be, answer this, speed of decomposition will be, so slow if it lacks chitin is wrong. If it lacks chitin, it will be faster. Okay, fast if detritus rich in simple sugar, that is true. Fast if detritus rich in lignin is false. If lignin is there, it can't happen. Okay, Then slow if detritus contains water soluble substances like sugars, it will be fast. So B is the correct answer. B is the correct answer. Then we go to the next one. Which of the following may cause algal blooms? Algal blooms. Which of the following may cause algal blooms? Please answer. See, they've asked algal blooms. Think and answer. See, nitrates and phosphates, that is what we usually say. Phosphorus, correct? Even if there is carbon, it does happen. Sulfur to some extent, but here looking at the options, we go for all of the above. Then, due to changing conditions of sunlight and temperature, the productivity. Answer. See, I'll tell you. I'll write it here. See, please see. So if this is the Earth, and this is the North Pole, and this is the South Pole, and this is the equator, this is Tropic of Cancer, this is another one, Tropic of Capricorn. So understand this. So the region here, this strip here is tropical region. The tropical region will have more biodiversity when compared to the temperate regions. Okay, so productivity is high in the tropics. So what does it say? Decreases from pole to tropics. It is wrong. Increases from polar area to tropics. Okay, increases from polar area to tropics. Yeah, remains same is wrong. D, what does it say? Increases from tropics to polar area. This is wrong. Increases from tropics to polar area is wrong. So B is the correct answer. Always we look at all the options and then answer. Then 12th one. Please answer. A tree providing food to several herbivores and parasitic organisms will represent. Think carefully and answer. So this is an inverted pyramid. Okay. So think and answer. It's an inverted pyramid of number. Why? The producer is only one, that is a tree. The rest are all herbivores and carnivores. So this can't be right, this can't be right, this can't be right. Okay, very good. Then please answer this. Answer. Okay. Sparrow is both a primary consumer and a secondary consumer. Sparrow is both a primary consumer and a secondary consumer. Why? Because it eats up seeds, at the same time it will eat insects. So B is the correct answer. Then, which one of the following is the most important service provided by ecosystem? Which one of the following is the most important service provided by ecosystem? Which is the most important one, which takes up 50% of the total services? It is soil formation. That is A. It is soil formation. That is A. That is A. So soil formation will take up 15%, 50%. Okay. Please answer this. The agro ecosystem, for example, all these gardens, I mean, commercial gardens, not the normal gardens. Okay. So farms, all those paddy fields and all those. Please answer. Agro ecosystem. So yes, they don't have much of biodiversity. That is true. They don't have much of biodiversity because they're almost the same. Then are stable and never cause pollution. No, they are not stable. They are not stable. Okay. And they never cause pollution. That is fine. But they're not stable. They have the capacity of self-regulation. Absolutely no. Rice plants have to be sowed. They're natural ecosystem. They're wrong. So A, they do not have they do not have diversity. Yes, that is true. They do not have diversity. A is the correct answer. I mean to say ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇಂಟು ಮಾರ್ಕ್ ಹಾಕಿದೆ ತಪ್ಪು ಮಾಡಿದೆ. They do not have diversity. So why usually in agro ecosystem we go for monoculture? We go for monoculture. Understand this. That is the problem. They do not have diversity. Done. Okay. We go to the next one. Means monoculture. Monoculture is where we go for growing only one type of plant. So you go to a paddy field. What do you see? You have only one type of plant completely. Okay. You just go for one species or one variety which is grown all throughout the area. Whereas you go to a forest. So for example, I take you to Agume and I'll let you go in a forest. If you take 1 square meter, you can see different types of plants. You can see different types of plants. Whereas in the farm, you don't see different type of plants. You only see monoculture. Okay. Then are stable. They're not stable. They're not absolutely not stable. Okay. They have the capacity of self-regulation. I'll tell you now why it doesn't have the capacity of self-regulation. I'll just give you an example. We have a paddy field or a ragi field. So this year we have sowed the crop. It is grown and it is ready for harvest. Let us think, okay, we don't harvest it, we just leave it as we leave it. In the case of a forest, nobody regulates it. There it is self-regulative. Whereas here, if we leave the farm as it is, what would happen? The seeds would come down, the fertility of the soil is lost, not much of activity takes place. Why? Everything was done by a human, plowing, taking out weeds and all that. So if you don't take care of the farm for 2 years, what will happen? The crop which you have grown is gone. So whatever you have grown, for example, ragi, wheat, maize, corn, whatever you have grown, they will just go off. Okay. Why? Everything was provided by humans. So we irrigated the land, we gave manure to it, and they are crop plants. So if you don't maintain it, what will happen? All the weeds will only grow up there. Okay. So it does not have self-regulation. Yeah, good. Somebody told this. Libina Binuraj. Yes, very good. We have weeds also, so they can't self-regulate. Okay. Please answer this. To attain maximum diversity in niche specialization, biotic succession needs. To attain maximum diversity and niche specialization, biotic succession needs. Think and answer this. Think and answer this. See, understand this. We'll start with primary succession. Okay. So when we start with primary succession, the biomass will keep on increasing. Okay. Let us think. Let us think this is a measure for biomass. Now, when we come here, we have maximum biodiversity. Okay. Here we have minimum biodiversity. Again, up to some time. So remember this. Here we might have lichens. Okay. Here we might have lichens. Then again we'll get lichens. Okay, sometime. Then bryophytes. So we don't see different types of bryophytes. Okay, there is very less diversity. Okay, very less diversity. Till here, there is some amount of instability. Okay, sorry, stability. Instability increases in an ecosystem, okay, based on the type of species that are present there. The type of species that are present there. So yes, climax community is a stable community. Climax community is a stable community. That is what you see. Okay. Whereas till here, what is happening? Till certain time, till you get biodiversity into picture, that is very important. Students understand this. There should be diversity which should be brought in a climax community, which does not happen, in the previous stages. Previous stages alla adu agodilla. Only after a certain point this will happen. So in detail ನೀವು ಓದಿದ್ರೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ. Okay, now what they have asked, to attain maximum diversity, ನೋಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ, we don't want anything. All that they are asking is maximum diversity. This is what you should give. And niche specialization. Do you remember in the last chapter we did the difference between habitat and niche? Habitat is just the place where it stays. Niche is the interaction also. Biotic succession will need. Think and answer carefully. What does it need? See, climax community is not the answer. Climax community is not the answer. Climax community is the end one. I know. Now, this was a question asked in old APMT. Okay, old APMT. I mean, some model paper. I've taken it. So I'll tell you, C is not correct. Why? What is transitional communities? Transitional communities are those communities which are changing from one group to another. Understand this. They are changing from one group to another. Artha agta idya? So they are changing from one group to another. Whereas pioneer community is the one that starts. This comes in the starting. So does this bring about maximum? No, 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 no. It is interspecific competition. It is interspecific competition. This is a very good question. It is interspecific competition. Now, there was a question we had done previously. Okay, so remember this, maximum biodiversity, stability, idella barodi yavaga in the last two phases, where there are more number and different types of plants. See, understand this. Number, if you just get number, imagine there are 100 plants, the number is 100, and it is made up of only 2 species. Okay, in the other one, the number of plants is 100, but it is made up of 10 species. Can you please tell me which one has more biodiversity? Is it the first one or the second one? Tell. It is the second one. See, the number is same. The number is same, but here it is almost all the species are same. There are only 2 species. Whereas here, look at it, there are 10 species. Here 10 into 10 different types are there. Here it is only 2 into 50 plants. So understand this. How does transitional community lead to stability? Okay, now I'll tell you something. Okay, this is where the question comes. What makes a difference between a stable community and an unstable community? See, here, how many types of lichens do you see? 1 or 2. Okay, you might find 1 million lichens. Whereas here, what is happening? You might find just 1,000 plants. Nodili, the number is 1 million. Whereas here, the number is only 10,000. The number is only 10,000. But you will find 100 different types of trees here. So what is happening? Here they are interrelating with each other. So the biotic and the abiotic components are interacting with each other to bring about stability. So one is doing pollination, the other one is getting seeds. The one is eating seeds and the seeds are getting dispersed. Like that, they are interconnecting and they are stable. And even if we remove a species here, just imagine, I remove a species here, this becomes 9,999. Still they are able to survive. But here, if I remove one species, this whole ecosystem will collapse here in the starting. That is why ecosystems with maximum biodiversity are always stable. That is why you look into a forest. These forests are from thousands of years. They're regulating themselves. Now, Leave your farm without taking care for 2 years, 3 years, you leave it. Your farm is completely gone. What happened to your farm ecosystem? It will collapse. So with maximum biodiversity, you will get very good stability. If the biodiversity is less, the stability is also less. Are you understanding? If you have doubts, please type. I know this question will demand lot of explanation, but I'm just asking you. Is there any doubt? Please type. There was few students. Okay, I'll go to the next question. So understand this. So stability will come only when the biodiversity increases. Okay. So we'll go to the next question. I suppose all of you would have understood this part. Okay. An ecosystem must have continuous external source of. What does an ecosystem have as a continuous external source of? No. D is not the right answer. Students, think. Does minerals come from another place? Does food come from another place? Energy. So where do they get energy from? From the sun. From the sun. Remember this. They get it from the sun. Okay. Next, in a food chain of grassland ecosystem, the top consumers are. In a grassland ecosystem, remember this. In a grassland ecosystem, the top consumers are. What are the top consumers? No. They are not herbivores, man. They are not herbivores. They are all carnivores. They are all carnivores. How can herbivores only be primary consumers? Bacteria, they are detritivores. Decomposition because either carnivores or herbivores. No. They've asked top consumers. Top consumers. They are carnivores. This was such an easy question. Then, which one of the following is not a gaseous biogeochemical cycle in ecosystem? Very good. Very good. Phosphorus. Okay. Next. Which one of the following types of organisms occupy more than one trophic level in a pond ecosystem? Think and answer. Seer. I'll come to seer. We have questions on it in the front. After this, I'll do it. What is yes, very good. Frog is the correct answer. I'll tell you why. So phytoplankton is wrong because it's a one. Zooplankton just consumes. It occupies more than one trophic level. Why? Because it'll eat plant one also and with animals also. Frog is the correct answer. Actually, fish also to some extent, but frog is a better answer. Then, in a comparative study of grassland ecosystem and pond ecosystem, it may be observed that grassland and pond. This is an easy question actually. Answer it. Please answer. See, D is the correct answer. I thought somebody would do it. B. See, primary and secondary consumers are similar. How primary and secondary consumers can be similar? How is it possible? Huh? See, they've asked pond and grassland. How consumers can be same? A is wrong. B, abiotic components are almost similar. Wrong. Here it is water, sunlight, and all that. Grassland, it is a different thing. Okay. Then biotic components, they're absolutely wrong. Biotic components, animals are only different. So both biotic and abiotic components are different. D is the correct answer. D is the correct answer. Then 22. Which of the following statements for pyramid of energy is incorrect, whereas remaining three are correct? Answer. See, it is upright in shape, correct? Its base is broad, is correct. It shows energy content of different trophic levels, correct? So it is inverted in shape, it is wrong. So D is the correct answer. D is the correct answer. D is the correct answer. Then the species, though insignificant in number, determine the existence of many other species in a given ecosystem. Such species is known as, is called as, what is it known as? It is known as keystone species. Keystone species. Sacred species are those which are worshipped and all that. Endemic species. Endemic species are those which are present in a particular geographical location and nowhere else in the world. So you can look at the rhino. So Indian rhino is an endemic species. Okay. Sandalwood.
Time up, sir.
Sandalwood is an endemic species. Kangaroo is an endemic species. Koala is an endemic species. Very good. Extinct are the one which are extinct. So two questions I'll solve and I'll stop it, sir. Consider the following statements concerning food chains. Removal of 80% tigers from an area resulted in greatly increased growth of vegetation. Is it correct? Removal of 80% tigers from an area resulted in greatly increased growth of vegetation. No, it is not correct. Why? If you remove tigers, what will happen? What will happen? The number of deer will increase. The herbivores will all increase. And that would put a pressure on the grass. So, agala. So, A is not right. B, removal of most of the carnivores resulted in increased population of deer. Yeah, that is correct. That is correct. Removal of most of the carnivores resulted in increased population of deer. That is correct. Then, see, the length of food chain is generally limited to 3 to 4 trophic levels due to loss of energy. That is true. That is true. That is absolutely true. D, length of food chain vary from 2 to 8 trophic levels. Wrong. 2 to 8 trophic levels. That is wrong. Which two of the above statement are correct? Yeah, option B. Option B is correct. Then niche is defined as, okay, last question will solve. Niche is defined as, so position of species in a community in relation to other species, partially correct. Place where the organism lives, that is the habitat. C is wrong. Place where the organism lives and performs its duty. So C is more apt when compared to A. Okay, so we'll see. Then place where the population perform their duties, that is wrong. So C is the correct answer. C is the correct answer. And it performs its duty. That means interaction with both biotic and abiotic will come into picture. Okay. So we'll stop here, students. We'll stop here. So, sir, I'll end the session. Rajal, sir, end madla. Thank you, students. In tomorrow's class, tomorrow you have my class, right? That is from 12:15 to 1:45. So tomorrow we will be doing biodiversity and environmental issues. Tomorrow we'll be solving two chapters, biodiversity and environmental issues. Biodiversity and environmental issues. That is on 2nd. Tomorrow is 2nd, right? So biodiversity and environmental issues. Please keep this in mind. Next class, biodiversity and environmental issues.
Students, please leave the meeting. Students, leave the meeting. Students, leave the meeting. Meeting is over. Please leave the meeting, yeah. Students, leave the meeting. It's over now. close the video.